It's time now for us to take a look at the business news, and Yuka Royer has joined us in studio. Yuka, I guess we're going to start with the markets. Is the US shutdown having any effect?
Well, a bit of a mixed reaction so far in the global markets, Eve. Here in Europe, Germany's DAX opened higher, but London and Paris are down. The euro is trading stronger following progress in Germany's coalition, as you talked about earlier. Earlier in Asian markets mostly traded higher, with shares extending last week's rally. As you can see, this is the Asian markets that was trading a little while earlier.
Yeah, doing pretty well overall. Now, the Senate in the US, the Senate's failure to reach a deal to reopen the federal government means that hundreds of thousands of public servants are staying at home this Monday. What's the potential impact on the US economy?
Well, many analysts are saying that a short-term government shutdown wouldn't have too much impact on the economy. But if the stalemate continues for a long time, that's a different story, obviously. To see what we might expect, we can look back at the last time the government shutdown occurred, and that was back in 2013. Solange Mujan has more.
From Lady Liberty to the Lincoln Memorial, from the IRS to the CDC, parks and agencies across the U.S. are being affected by the government shutdown. Closed, running on state funds, or only partially open, the shutdown is the exact opposite of a money-saving measure for the U.S. government. The last one in 2013 went on for 16 days. It cost, according to Standard & Poor's estimate, some $24 billion to the U.S. economy. Why so much? Well, first there's back pay. Hundreds of thousands of employees are told to stay home. They don't receive a paycheck, which causes households to curb spending. Generally, Congress votes to grant retroactive pay once the shutdown is over. In 2013, furloughing over 800,000 employees cost the government some $2 billion just in payroll days. Nancy Pelosi, the House Minority Leader, promised that this time will be no different. She said military personnel, for example, will eventually get paid.
I want them to ignore anything that they're hearing from the other side, that they're not going to get paid, that we're not there for them. They are going to get paid, and we want them to have the resources they need to keep America safe.
Then there's lost productivity to take into account, with employees working to implement the shutdown and then return everything to normal. There's also millions in lost revenue to museums and national parks. And finally, a general sense of unease and withheld contracts that slow the economy. A slew of parameters that S&P Global says amounts to approximately $6.5 billion in losses to the U.S. economy every week.
Some more of the business headlines for you at this hour. And French President Emmanuel Macron is welcoming some 140 multinational business leaders at the Versailles Chateau. He wants to convince them to choose France over other countries as he pushes ahead with reforms. Several firms will use the conference to announce major investments in France, including Toyota, which is spending 400 million euros to enlarge its factory in the north of the country. Facebook says it will open 3 new centres in Europe, in Spain, Italy and Poland, to train people in digital skills. It has also committed to training 1 million people over the next 2 years. Facebook is investing 10 million euros at the same time in France through its artificial intelligence research facility. The social media giant has faced regulatory pressure in Europe over issues ranging from privacy to antitrust. Philadelphia Energy Solutions, the owner of the largest US East Coast oil refining complex, has told its employees that it plans to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, according to Reuters. The company owns 2 refineries with a capacity to convert about 335,000 barrels of crude oil per day to gasoline, jet fuel and diesel. It employs more than 1,000 people.
Now, the World Economic Forum, an elite gathering of government and business leaders, is kicking off this week in the Swiss Alpine resort of Davos. And NGOs wanted to put social and gender equality at the heart of those discussions, Yuga.
Well, Oxfam has just released its annual Inequality report, which shows the gap between the rich and the poor is widening even further. It says that the world's richest 1% raising 82% of the wealth generated last year, while the poorest half of the global population got no increase. The group says, quote, "The billionaire boom is not a sign of a thriving economy, but a symptom of a failing economic system," and calls on governments to crack down on tax avoidance. Take a lesson.
Developing countries lose $100 billion every year through tax dodging that is rooted through tax havens. That is money that should be paying for education of children, health, young people's jobs, but it's all stashed away in tax havens untaxed.
Getting our business editors who are in Davos, Kate Moody and Stephen Carroll, to follow up on that and more
the latest
during the week.
Stephen Carroll and Kate.
Thanks a lot, Yuka.